So I have a simple question, Lars. What is a good use case for HTTP resource, or when to use it instead of typical HTTP client?
Yeah. The main difference between the HTTP resource and the HTTP client is that the HTTP resource has some kind of error handling built in.
Yeah.
And it has some kind of loading indicator built in.
Yep.
This is something you have to build yourself with the HTTP client.
That's right. Yeah.
It's not that complicated. You can what I usually do in the past, and I'm not using the resource API that much now, but I will in the future, hopefully. What I usually do with the HTTP client is like it's an observable, and I do some kind of switch map, and I usually do some kind of start with and wrap the state of the observable in some kind of object, like the is loading state. And then I do some kind of catch error on the inner observable. And if that triggers, then I emit some kind of object with some state equals error property. And otherwise, I map the result in the success case to an object with the state is success, like a discriminated union between loading, success, and error. And so it's a very similar to the HTTP resource, or the resource type as is. And the resource type is actually a nice common thing that we can use to build our own resources. It doesn't have to be HTTP resource. It can be anything. At least as long as the service returns some kind of resource, the component can just use it and display some kind of loading spinner on error display or whatever you need. So you can use the HTTP resource and make your components compliant with the resource type, and that would be totally okay if you don't want to mess around with the HTTP client observable stuff. But yeah.
Okay, but do we still need the HTTP client then?
It's used on the hood in the HTTP resources. So
I know.
you don't need it for loading data. You may need it for submitting or
some
mutating.
Post and put. Yeah. So for general get HTTP resource, like that's how I grasp it somehow, that for getting the information, HTTP resource is great because it's signals, and I mean you can still use ArcGIS operators inside.
If you need.
It returns something different.
Not.
The HTTP client is going to return an observable.
Yeah.
And the HTTP resource is going to return what, Lars? Tell us.
A resource.
A resource. Which is which comes with like the loading info, the error handling. It's not.
So basically the cumbersome stuff you had to do manually for HTTP client, it comes with it. Okay, so that's why I was like, why do I still need it? And for the posting the information to the backend. Okay. And another question is that in most cases I saw using like usage of HTTP resource in the component.
Yeah.
But
that's for simple examples, that's how to showcase the HTTP resource, but I wouldn't place it there. I would
I would put it into service still, right?
Exactly. Maybe not even a service, but just a function. And do something like create user resource, and it returns it uses the HTTP resource and just returns the resource type, and the component doesn't know about HTTP resource at all. It just has a resource, and that's totally fine.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, my main question was like, yeah, why it's on components, but okay, it's mostly for the demos. Why would you just have it in a function instead of in a service? So the for example, when you have CRUD operations on user, you want to get the user created maybe, and I don't know, update it somehow. So from my point of view, all the logic should be in the user service, also getting it and stuff like that.
According to the new style guide, we should use the name user client instead of user service. But,
okay.
Yeah, because it's like the HTTP client. It's the user client. It's some abstraction above the HTTP client, and it's a user client, some kind of object you use to access your user's resource, and you can put that into a service. That's totally okay. Yeah, it's just a personal preference, because when I fetch the data, I only have to fetch it, and I usually don't have any other operations on it. And so I like the concept of some kind of inject function that I use to initialize some member on the component. And it runs in an injection context, so you can use some kind of inject function inside that function to build up whatever you need and just return the object, and there you go. So you don't need some kind of dependency injection providers set up and all those stuff. But it's just a very small difference. It's not really necessary.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks. That's all the questions I had, basically.
And one important difference between the resource, the fetching of the data, and some kind of mutation is the HTTP resource is bound to the lifecycle of the component, or the injection context in which it's created. So if the component gets destroyed, the injection context of the component gets destroyed, and therefore the HTTP resource gets destroyed. And then all the fetching stops. And this is something you want to avoid if you send an update to the backend, because you want that operation to be not canceled and to be fulfilled, even if the user navigates away, because it hits the save and then navigates wherever it wants. And then maybe you have to make sure with a can deactivate guard if there's some operation going on, and postponing that and so on, and that makes something a little bit complicated. And that's one of the rare cases where subscribe on the HTTP client without take until destroyed is totally okay, because that subscription will live longer
even
than
after
it will live longer than the component. But the trade-off is you have to take extra care with error handling, because even the update can error. And when the component is destroyed, you don't have something where to display the error if something happens. So you need some kind of maybe a global snack bar or whatever to display you saved something here, but there was an error.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Thanks.